the medicine didn't work, so they're going to end up doing the stopping his heart and having to shock it to get it started back again. So Sheila has asked Margie to stand in for her tonight. Sheila's having a lot of health problems, a host of health problems. And okay. So yeah, that's right. But she goes stand in for Ron. I'm sorry. Somebody come and stand in for. Come in and stand in. You stand in for Randall. Jennifer, come stand in for Sheila. Won't you stand around a bit? Let's pray for this service tonight. And pray that God's will would be done in every heart here. You know, this is a brand new service, a brand new opportunity for God to be with us, for God to change our lives. And just like we had talked about, somebody, I think it's Martin today, we get what we come for. And if we come, the more you put into the service, the more you're going to get out of it. And so let's just all be mindful of the Spirit of God tonight. And just come before Him knowing, man, we're going to go before His presence. And to know that we're talking to God that created all things. And how great of an opportunity is that for us to be, just to have that privilege of going for ourselves and not having to go to a priest or going to anybody and, you know, and putting your faith in that person to remember to pray for you. But we have the privilege of going to God for ourselves anytime that we want. And it is so good to be able to do that. Father, Son, Holy Ghost. I want you, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Jennifer, I want you, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Let's just pray. Let's just be. Let's pray. Let's ask you to bless this service. Bless our time. Father God, we thank you. Thank you. Bible study on Tuesday the 5th at 6:30. The stand, please.
3:10. I'm glad for Union Day. There will be a happy meeting in heaven, I know.
a Savior who's bigger than anything that we face.
Something about a Sunday night, and it's sort of like this. You can invite a lot of people over for a meal, and expect a big crowd and invite everybody, and then usually, as soon as the meal is over, and you start settling in. About 75% of the people will go ahead and start leaving. They've they're done with what they've come to do. They've socialized just a little bit, and you know, they come and say, well, we got to go, it's getting late, we got to get kids into bed, and you know, and so we've had a good time, see you later, bye. And then there's always the ones that hang around. And the ones that hang around are usually your closest friends. And it feels good to sit around. And usually the atmosphere starts changing after that happens. And that's when it starts getting more intimate, you get to sit closer, you get to visit more. And that's the way I feel about a Sunday night. You know, I'm probably hear about Sunday morning people, but man, they miss a blessing when I come on Sunday night. And we used to have some people come to our house, and they'd come in their pajamas, and we knew what that meant. You know, they're gonna be there a while. You know, so we need to have a pajama night. Just plan on just coming in our pajamas and staying late at God's house. That would be. We need to mark that on the calendar. They have it at school, so why can't we have it at church? You know? So, hey, let me tell y'all just real quick. You be turned over to Exodus 32. That's what we'll be. Let me tell you about a God moment I had today. I went to the hospital, and I went and seen Ron, and I was still at Memorial Hospital, and was fixing to go on over to Erlanger. And is this on? Yeah. And so I walked out into the parking lot, outside the parking lot, around on the new side of the emergency room and all that is. And I met this couple, elderly couple, and I walked up, have a suit on, and they said, "Can you help us?" And they said, "We don't know where we're at exactly, and we need to get to the main entrance. And is this the main entrance?" And I said, "Well, kinda." I said, "We got two main entrances, one on this side of the hospital, another main entrance on the other side, and it all depends on where you're wanting to go." And so to make a real long story short, they was there last night. They went into the emergency room, and they couldn't figure out where they went then. And the elderly man said, "Let's just go back," told his wife, "let's just go back to the emergency room. We'll start there. We know kind of how we went, and we'll get on the elevator and go up." And I said, "Well, right there is the main entrance emergency room right there." And they said, "Well, I can remember coming up on J elevator." And I said, "J elevator is just right inside. I know, I can get you on J elevator." I said, "I'll take you in." And they said, "No, that's too much. No, we're not going to ask you to walk us back in." And I said, "You can't stop me. You know, I'm going. We're going to take you in." And they said, "Are you a doctor?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm just a lonely servant of God, you know, and I'm a minister, and I just want to take him in. If that'd be all right, and I'm going to take him back in." So we was walking back in, and so we walked in the door and walked around the corner through the lobby, and I pointed at the sign and said, "See that yellow or that green sign on the wall there on the left?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "That's J elevator." So we're kind of out in the main lobby around the corner where the steps. Everybody know where I'm at? And right there beside the steps as I pointed down the hall. And so I said, "Let me just ask you if it won't offend you, who's in the hospital that you're coming to see?" And she said, "It's my son." Said he's got a lot of health issues, and he's just really in a bad place right now, and we're just really worried about him. I said, "If it's okay with you, I'd just like to have prayer with you, if that would be okay." She said, "That would be great." And so we just held hands right there in the lobby and was praying. And the Spirit of God just rained down. You know how much prayer we've had today. And it just felt so good and just so free. And you know, you just kind of lose track of that there could be anybody around. And did you know when I said in Jesus' name, amen, I stopped and raised my head. There was about 10 to 15 people that had gathered around us and was praying with us. And people had stopped in the halls as they was walking from both directions and to stop to give us privacy. But a lot of people had come up, and I told that couple, I said, "Look at all the people that have joined in on our prayer." And let me tell you what, it didn't cost a penny. That whole thing probably not even 4 minutes tops. But man, what a difference it made in everybody's life. Let me tell you what, take advantage of those opportunities. Don't be in no hurry. Because God can use you in a mighty, mighty way. If we would just be willing to take that stand. And I thank God for that. I thank God for that. This day has been good for me. I hope it's been good for you. I pray tonight would be good for us both. It's going to be similar to this morning in the fact of the way that God singled out Jeremiah. God also singled out Moses, and for a different reason. If you would stand with me, Exodus chapter 32. Just pray for us. I really appreciate all your prayers, always. Starting verse number 1 of chapter 32. It says, "And when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount,
The people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, Up, make us gods, a little g, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we want not, or we don't know what is become of him. And Aaron said unto them, Break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, and of your sons and of your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron, and he received them at their hand. And he fashioned it with a graven tool after he had made it a molten calf. And they said, These be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation and said, Tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. And they rose up early on the morrow and offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and to drink and rose up to play. Let's bow our heads. Father God, we come to you in the mighty name of Jesus, our Savior, our Lord. God, I pray tonight that you bless the reading of your word. God, I pray that it finds a place in our hearts, dear God, not just our ears. But God, you know my heart. Father, and how that I so long, God, to have that connection, God, to have that intimacy with you, God. I pray that for every single person in this place tonight. That, God, that we would change, God, the way that we feel towards you. God, from a God that is far off, Lord, to a God that is near. Lord, from a God that is up in heaven, Lord, change it to a God that is right here before us, dear Father. And Lord, I pray this in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen and amen. You may be seated. I want to turn your attention for just a second back to verse number 1. I'm not going to go through this verse by verse, but I want to just camp for a moment on verse number 1. It says, And the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount. The people gathered themselves unto Aaron, and he said, Up, make us gods, which shall go before us. For as for this Moses, the man that brought us out of the land of Egypt, we don't know what has become of him. Now, we know that up until this point, they've been several months into their journey. But as soon as this time comes, now this is Moses' 6th trip up the mountain. Not his first, but it is his 6th trip up the mountain. And what he's gone there this time was for, God's giving the articles of the tabernacle, what he wants, and the foundation, and who he's laid it in the hearts of the builders and the people that have the skills. And he's laying it down, so just this to do with the temple. He was up there for 40 days and 40 nights, but during this time, the people have started murmuring and started falling away from God. In just a few months of time, 40 days, less than 40 days, the people have already turned from God. And they're naming the cause because of Moses is not before them. Now notice that they said, as for this Moses, we don't know what's happened to him. It wasn't like, hey, Moses is pretty much, I don't know where he's at. People getting kind of nervous. So let's just find somebody else. If you don't cure Aaron, just kind of comfort the people. Or find somebody that's going to start comforting the people. Somebody to stand in the place of Moses. Let's keep everything going here. But let's find somebody to settle the people. It wasn't that. You say Moses has just been gone for a little while. What does the people want already? They want a new God. It ain't a new leader. It's not that we're worried that Moses might not come back. So what are we going to do? How's God going to lead us? It's not any of that. They're ready to turn from God altogether. It said, we need another God. We need another God. Now, get this. God showed me something today. You take, when they're standing before Aaron and proclaiming this, Jason, they still had the pillar of fire and the pillar of smoke before them to see God's presence in the day and the night. It came about chapter 13, about right before they crossed the Red Sea. They've seen God's hand in parting the Red Sea. He's seen how they delivered, how God was able. And then we get over into chapter 16. God has brought them quail. We see the introduction of manna. They took them through a war. He's called water out of a rock to water them. Did you know that the morning, that very morning that they went to Aaron, you know what they had for breakfast? You know what they ate? Manna. God had fed them miraculously that very morning. And while they're speaking, whether it's day or night, there's the pillar of fire during the night, or if it was day, the pillar of smoke, showing them that each and every one, God's presence was right there with them. Yet, what did they want? They wanted another God. They wanted another God. They wasn't satisfied with what they already had. They was already faltering by the wayside. They had seen trip number 1, the mountain, when they first made it to Mount Sinai, and how they had to stand afar off, and the mountain was rumbling. The top of it was on fire and smoke and a great thundering earthquake. And they said, we're not able to go. Moses, you go up and you talk to God for us, because we're not. We cannot. Moses, just go up and talk to God. We can't be nowhere close. They were scared absolutely to death. They had seen all of this just a few months into their journey. They'd seen it all. But now that Moses is slow coming back, they're ready. They want a new God. We read how Aaron tells them all, not just the, it says in your text that the wives, their sons and daughters, break off the earrings, men did too. That was pretty much a given. So it wasn't just them, but he received the gold in everyone's hands that brought it. They contributed to that. Every one of them had a part in that. It wasn't like they was coerced into it. They willingly gave their lot for this. Aaron took it and he formed it into this God, and it's most undoubtedly like one of the gods that they seen in Egypt. And he said, on tomorrow we're going to have a feast. It says to the Lord, but we know what it was intended. Aaron, how in the world Aaron got involved in this is beyond me. But here's what I want you to see. Starting at verse 7. Now Moses is still on the mountain. Moses is still on the mountain. He's still receiving the instructions from God while all this is going on down in the valley. Moses is still on top of the mountain. He's still up there with God. And verse 7 says, and the Lord said to Moses, go and get thee down for thy people and not his people. He's telling Moses, he said, they're yours. He said, get ye down, for thy people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. They made a molten calf and have worshipped it and have consecrated thereunto and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. Let me just stop right there. They're giving credit to this molten calf that they made out of their earrings, to everything from Egypt on up. They're the gods. This is the God that delivered you. This is the God that took you through the Red Sea. This is the God that you see now. And taking the place of the true God who done it. All through these verses, notice that. Verse 9 said, and the Lord said unto Moses, I have seen these people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked, stubborn people. Now therefore, let me alone, that my wrath may wax hot against them, and that I may consume them. Listen now, here it is. And I will make of thee a great nation. So what he's saying is, he said, Moses, he said, the people have corrupted themselves very quickly. Very quickly. Moses has been in the presence with God. The people have left to defend for themselves. And all of a sudden, God sees and knows what's going on. And so he starts a conversation now with Moses. And we know the bond that God and Moses had. And as you look at this in your mind's eye, God says, Moses, just go back down there because I want to be alone so I can get angry and consume it. And he says, and when I do this, he said, I'm going to make of you, Moses. I'll make of you a great nation. Now, why did he want to do that? Can you tell you why he wanted to do that? It was a test for Moses. It was a test for Moses. It was a test Moses. How many people, if you had been in the presence of God, now this is something out here, folks. Here's Moses in God's presence, God's man, they're face to face. I mean, as a man talks to his brother or his friend, they're well connected. Okay? And Moses standing before God, God throws this out just to test Moses and Moses in his own flesh. You think about this, God says, I'm making you a great nation. All the promises that I have made, now I'm going to kill everybody, I'm going to start again with you. Would that not appeal to your flesh for just a moment? Man. I'll make of you a great nation. I'll start all over. Moses thinking, man, it won't be Father Abraham anymore that they'll be singing. They'll be saying, Father Moses, amen. My name will be in all of the books. God will use me. But you know, not one time did Moses take the bait. Not one time did Moses fall for it. Not one time. You know, and the amazing thing about that is he might have thought it for a second, but yet what come out of his mouth something different. But God knows our motives, and I don't even believe it entered into his mind. Because right after that, a few verses later, we're fixing to read, he starts reminding God of what he originally promised. What he originally promised. Look at 11. And Moses bethought the Lord his God and said, Lord, why dost thou wrath wax hot against the people, which thou, he reminds him, which thou, you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Wherefore should the Egyptians speak? That's what it's a question. He said, so if you did, he said the Egyptians would speak and say, for mischief. For mischief did you bring them out to slay them in the mountain and consume them in the face of the earth. He's saying for mischief, it's the same thing. Where's it at? I had it wrote down. For harm. Well, people's going to say, the world's going to say, you did this so you could take them out and kill them. Is that what you want to be known for? He's reasoning with God. He said, turn from thy fierce wrath and repent. Change your mind of this evil against thy people. And he reminds him in 13, he says, remember Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, thy servants to whom thou swearest by thine own self, and said unto them, I will multiply your seeds as the stars of heaven, and all this land will I have spoken of will I give unto your seed, and they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord repented of the evil which he was thought to do his people. It's not like Moses changed his mind, but more or less he passed the test. He passed the test. And through all of this, up to this point, Moses never went to God and said, God, I want to lead your people out. God, let me be the one that goes down. Moses was approached by God and tried every way in the world to get out of it. Tried every way in the world to get out. But I've often wondered how the story would have been if when God said, think about this, is when God told Moses, said, I want you to go to lead my people. He said, I'll do it. And left Aaron completely out of the picture. And I'm not saying they felt this, but you think about it. Think about it. How would it have been different, or if it would have been different? You see, you compare the two. And there's one thing to always remember about Moses. Moses was always interceding for the people. He was always standing in behalf of the people. He was that person that loved his calling and loved his people so much that he would give himself, put his own life on hold for what he felt and knew that God was calling him to. That became number one in his life. He knew the pressures, and just think about the everyday struggle of leading somewhere out and never even knowing where they're going to be the next day. It wasn't like God said, okay, day 1 we're going to be here, and day 2, by day 20 we're going to be here. You just follow this course. No. When the pillars stopped, they stopped. They didn't start moving again until the pillars started moving. They didn't know where they was going to go the next day. They didn't know how far it was that they was going to have to go. They was following God. God was leading them one day at a time. You figure that. It kind of resonates. But here's what I want you to see. God spoke through Moses. Moses spoke to the people on behalf of God. Jeremiah. God spoke to Jeremiah this morning. Jeremiah spoke to the people on behalf of God. God had prepared their hearts not only to be obedient to his word and to listen, but he had to give them the same kind of compassion that he was, the same kind of love for the people that he was having to take a message to. Now, how hard is that? How hard is that? I'm sure Jason didn't get up this morning and preach to us or speak to us. I don't want to put a calling on him, but we all pretty much know. Jason, you could tell that God had laid that on his heart to give us God's instructions. I'm sure he didn't take great pleasure in getting up here and delivering that. There's times when God has led a pastor to give one of those pastoral sermons that you really agonize and pray over. Not that you're scared of the people, but you love them so much that you're hoping that it is took with all the love that God has given to you. For us to be used of God in our little circles, before God can use you mightily, God's got to break you deeply. God has to form you. God has to get you ready before he can ever get you around the people and to with any kind of a message, with any kind of a word or any kind of a work. I mean, it's not like, you'll never hear from God if you don't know how to listen to God. God will never trust anything into you in a big way if you're negligent in the small things. And a lot of people here today is probably saying, well, that's okay with me because I don't want to be that. I just assume leave it like it is. I really don't want God to use me in no mighty way. Let me tell you what. That verse comes to my mind. It says, where much is given, much is required. Where much is given, much is required. Let me tell you what. One day you will be so glad that you did something for God. Something for God. But before that we could grow, before that we could ever get to the point of where that God could ever use us, it's got to be to the point of where that God has to break our hearts to where we see the people, we see the situation, we see the lives, we see the trouble, we see the turmoil, we see everything that that person is in, but yet we can hate the sin but love the person. Does that make sense? We can still hate the sin and agree that it is God. We hate that. We hate all of that. But yet we can look past that, wade through that, get in it with them, and say, but I still love you. And I'm not giving up on you. But see, that's what God did with Moses. That's what God did with Jeremiah. And that's most certainly what God is doing in my heart, and I'm hoping that He's doing in yours. There's a world out there that's lost and don't know God. And they're in a world of turmoil. But God tells us to come out of that world, be separate, and be a different kind of people. And that means a different lifestyle. That means a different kind of book that we read. That means a different kind of outcome to the problem that they're neck deep in, and they feel the weight of it and know that it ain't getting them anywhere, but they don't know nothing else to do. Same way with this bunch. All they knew was idol worship. All they had been around was the Egyptians and how they flourished. They had to follow God. So little by little, they become like them. They adapted to them. They quit being God's people and started going right in with whatever's happening in Egypt. But yet when God came on the scene, God answered their prayer of deliverance, let them out, but yet they didn't like God's leadership because they don't get to play anymore. Sound familiar, don't it? We don't get to play anymore. God's called us out. We're different. You know, I can't go there. I can't go out with you boys tonight. You know, I can't watch that video. You know, I can't listen to this kind of music. I don't get to. That's how we are. But God's calling us to be different. But let me tell you what. When you got somebody that's neck deep in the world, and they feel that convicting power of God finally get a hold of their life, you know what's going to happen? They're going to look for somebody that's living different from them, because they certainly ain't going to come to a lukewarm Christian that's going out and drinking with them all the time. Just because you say that you're going to church and you're cutting those old crack jokes and you're living amongst them and you're doing the same things that they're doing, they're not one moment thinking that you're any different or any better than what they are. They're looking for something different. And God wants a people, His people, that are called by His name, that are willing to go to a mountaintop and meet with God and have that intimate connection with Him to where that you can sense God's heart in this, so yet when you go to that person, you got enough of God's character in you that when you talk to them, they can feel God's love through you. They can feel the genuineness of your love, and it's not lip service. Or something different. Something completely different. It should change us. When we're in the presence of God, when we've been in the presence of God, John, we should act different. We should look different. We should sound different. God tells Moses to get back down. They corrupted themselves. And as he started back down the mountain, on trip number 6, Joshua says, I hear noise of war in the camp.
Moses said, that ain't war. He said, that's singing. That's singing. Then when he was able to look down on the mountain and he seen the people, don't you know that Moses' heart broke because he seen the people the same way that God seen them. He had been in God's presence for 40 days, 40 nights straight. And yet when he come down, he seen how everything that God said about the people was absolutely true. It was absolutely true. What does it take? What does it take to keep that connection with God? Let me tell you what it takes. It takes daily being in His presence. It takes that daily connection with God. Daily. Keeping connected with God. Keeping motivated. Keeping His goals in your mind. Keeping on His armor. Keeping on His cloak. Knowing that every single day God is going to use you. He's going to protect you. He's going to feed you. He's going to give you everything that you need to serve Him that day. Everything that you need. And then when the time comes for you to have to take a stand, when you have to stand opposite of the world and be that outside person that everyone is looking at as the oddball, let me tell you what, then all they're going to see is the love of God because you've been in His presence. Been in His presence. We know, and I'm going to skip the part to tell you about it, when Moses come down and he killed many of them. He gave them a choice. Who's on the Lord's side? The Levites come over. They had a battle. Many people died that day. He ground up the golden calf, and he got got Aaron's face. How in the world could you have caused these people to sin? And you know that story. I think it's one of the greatest jokes in the Bible. Aaron's the only answer he could come up with. I took their earrings, stole it, and fired this cow come walking out. Now, figure that. He just completely said it was wild. You ever been here, Moses? It wasn't my fault. That sounds odd. You preach everybody on that. It's not my fault. I'm just a victim of my surroundings, my circumstances. It's not my fault. I'm innocent. I'm the victim here. God let me down. How many of we heard that? It's not me. God had to physically remove the tabernacle that was in the tent at that time. Move it completely outside the camp. He moved it completely. The camp was set up with everybody in it. But God told him, said, take the tabernacle, get it out of the town. Get it out from among the people. Set it outside. And if anybody wants to come, they got to come out there. God removed Himself from them. He said, anybody who wants to come pray, they're welcome to pray, but it's not going to be right here because I'm moving out. He told me, he said, listen, I want you to take the people, just like I said. I want you still going to the land of milk and honey, the land that I promised. We're going to drive out the Hivites, the Hittites, all the Ammonites. You're still going to drive them all out, but I'm going to send an angel. I'm not going to go with you. It's talking to Moses. He said, I'm not going because, let me tell you what, I'm going to just blow up, kill them all. And in just a moment, Moses, what did he do again? He started interceding. He said, God, he said, listen, if you don't go with me, see, you told me, God, that you love, this is your people. And you told me at the burning bush that this was your people and you wanted me to lead them out. So I said, yeah, I'm telling you, God, if you ain't going to lead us, then I don't even want to go. If you're not going to be the one to lead us, then I'm not even going to go. If you said I found grace in your sight, if you love me like you said, God, then you should be the one because this is your people. You're the one that's
said that you would lead me. And if you're not going to be the one, then I'm not leaving. Unless you personally are the one. Touch God's heart. Touched his heart. You know what he said? He said, I'll go. I'll go and I'll lead you. Moses said at that point in time, he said, God, he said, show me your glory. I want to feel you. I want to see you. See, as close as Moses was at that point in time, that he could go in the tabernacle, go on the mountain, and be at such a thick fog on top or smoke on this mountain. And the Bible says, not Mark Cameron, the Bible says that they talk face to face. You know what that is? I mean, that's just like me and Chris sitting here talking. And I could hear Chris's voice this close to me in a normal tone of conversation. He's talking to God face to face. And yet he's still not satisfied with that. He said, listen, I want to see you. I want to feel you. I want to see your glory. He said, listen, you can't handle it. Moses said that I want all that I can physically stand. I want that much of you, God. I want to know you. I want to feel you. I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. I want all that I am physically able to stand without you just dying for being in your glory. He said, you can't see my face. He said, well, let me see all I can see. He tells me, he said, I'm going to put you in a rock, put you in a cleft. And when I come by, I'm going to hold my hand over you and protect you. You can't see my front side, but you can see my back. How awesome is that? How great would it be just to be able to ask God for such, just to have a love of God for so much? You see what we're missing, church? We're settling for scraps. We're settling for watered-down sermons that just tickle and make us feel good about ourselves and make us think everything's all right. And my sin's not that big of a deal. And I'm pretty comfortable in my own little cubicle, little nest where I sit. And I'm okay. You know, God's not dealing with me. You know, I'm not convicted. But, I'm all right. Do you see what we're lacking? Do you see what we're missing? Do you see what's out there for every child of God to have? Moses was a human being. He's no respecter of person. It would delight him, Casey, if you wanted and prayed for the same kind of intimacy that Moses had. Elijah did the same thing. He said, I want a double portion. I want a double portion of what you have. I want more, not satisfied. Every single child of God is here today. Man, I would just wish, even for myself, and I'm praying this. God, give me more of a hunger. Give me more of a desire. Because, let me tell you what, you can't get it by reading. If you're reading 3 chapters a day and you bump it up to 5, don't think that God's really going to get a hold of me because I bumped it up 2 chapters. Amen. I'm going to start going on Sunday night. I'm going to start going on Wednesday night. And I'm going to go to a Bible study. Man, God's bound to see that. God's bound to see all that. You see, all of that's well and good. But it's works. You see what got God's attention for Moses? Here it is. He goes back to that test. He checked his motives. He checked the genuineness of the man on the inside, and he genuinely wanted God's heart. He genuinely wanted the best for God. What God felt important, Moses wanted God's best interest to be done. That's what the connection was between Moses and God. It should be each one of our desires that God get glory, God be praised, God be magnified, that His kingdom advanced here on this earth. When our motives get to be Godward, God-centered, then you'll start seeing things change in your life. But if we're here today And I'm convinced that there's not a single person in here thinks that you've arrived at anything. Because I don't think God will ever say, you made it, brother. You ain't got to do no more. You ain't got to do no more. Because when we really get a hunger for God, man, it's daily. It's a daily walk. And it ain't like just a passing grade. I just want to get to heaven. I just want to get there by the skin of my teeth. And, that's it, man. I don't know if there's any levels in heaven, but as long as I can get inside to avoid hell, just right inside the door. Man, I'm good. I'm good, preacher. That ain't the way that we ought to be. Every single one of us should have a heart's desire to do what we can do. Leading a life that we can have when we get before Him, we won't have to be ashamed of what we've done. I promise. Knowing God and knowing God intimately is things. I know many of you. Some of you I'm closer than others. But here's the kicker. My wife knows everything about me. The good, bad, and ugly. She knows it. But I know it about her too. See, that's the connection. That's the connection. We should want to know God the same. And we should allow God to feel that we have the same openness and honestness within ourselves, that we're able to open ourselves up to the realization that we need God more. We need to give Him more room in our life. God might not ever call us to lead anybody out of the Red Sea and across it and across the wilderness. Can you see me leading 2 million across the wilderness? We wouldn't even make the Red Sea. We'd just keep going around Egypt. We never would even see the Red Sea. 40 years in a 10-mile stretch. I'd get to walking, there'd be somebody in front of me. It'd be the tail end of whoever one of the people I'm leading. We'll follow them. God is able to so much more. And you know what? He wants it more than you do. I hope you see that. I hope that you get your arms around it. God has so much for you. So much for you. Of the blessings that He's just wanting to share with you. And it's not that it's going to be a long, you got to teach Sunday school, or you got to get up and publicly confess Christ to all your, get up at the break room and say, hey everybody, let me talk to you for a minute. It ain't that. Man, it starts with that intimacy with you wanting to know Him. It starts with that time on the mount. And it's still that verse that I read last Wednesday that kicked it all off, where God invited Moses up on the mountain. It's found over in chapter 24, verse 12. And the Lord said to Moses, come up to me and up to the mountain and be there. You remember that? Be there. Sit down in my living room. Sit down at my feet. Come in your pajamas. Stay late. And let's just enjoy each other. That's where the walk starts. That's where there's foundations. Don't worry about all this other stuff. Don't worry about all the other things. You start working on that intimacy of knowing that you got to be honest with God, of allowing God to see everything that's in your life. You really start praying for that intimacy with God. And I promise you, everything else is going to just take on a life of its own. But it starts on the mountain. It starts alone with God. Let's stand to our feet right now. Father, I'm praying for every single person in here, God, myself included. God, myself at the top of the list. God, I want more of you. God, I need more of you. It's easy to be the ones that sit back and count. God, it's easy to be influenced by
everybody else that's around us in this world. God, little by little, we become part like them. Father, when somebody comes up with the idea of, let's make an idol, God, we're ready to give off our portion, God, to make that a reality. God, I pray for a group of people, Lord, that have a heart for you. God, that you would build into a church. God, that you could put enough love within ourselves, God, the same kind of love that you have for this world, God. So when we see somebody that's struggling, when we see somebody that's backslidden, somebody, God, that's lost, Lord, that we come to them out of love and out of respect, God, because they are, God, in such a need of a Savior, Lord, and we've got the words. We can come along. We can make a difference. We can be your hands. We can be your feet. But God, without that love, we walk right on by and never even pay attention. Turn our face from them so it don't make us feel guilty. God, the days of looking away are over. Father, I pray for a renewed spirit. God, I pray for every single person in here right this moment, Lord, that we would get a hunger and a thirst for righteousness. Lord, that our cups may start to fill. And God, there is no telling what can happen in this building for the name of Christ when our motives are centered upward and not inward. Father, I pray with every ounce that I can muster right now, God. Speak to our hearts right now. Touch us, dear God. Shake our foundation right now, dear Lord. Let us see what we're building on. Have your way right this moment. For it's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. God's calling your name. If you recognize a void in your life, there's something that's still standing in the way that you can't start this journey just yet. Mark, it sounds great. I mean, man, that would be fantastic, but I'm just not there yet. You need to be here. If there's something in your life that you know, that you just can't open that closet door yet, let God in, you need to be here. Because nothing changes if you don't. Nothing is going to change in your life until you become honest with God. You will stand before God just as you are. God's calling you out in the world. God's showing you, inviting you to go to the mountaintop where He's waiting on you right now. He's inviting you to meet Him on top of the mountain and be there. And be there. Let's all accept that call. Let's join me right now, everyone, while they sing. church. Not just this church, but the church in general. Is the reason why we can't make disciples is because we're not disciples ourselves. You see, you can't be a disciple until you start loving the Lord. It goes back to that point. I could get up on a Sunday morning, even right now. How many love the Lord? I guarantee you, without a fact, every single hand would go up. But that love is a fondness. It's not the deep kind of love God is looking for in our lives. It's saying, God, yes, with every ounce of my being, I love you. I love you with an never-ending love. It's a brotherly fondness that when we raise our hands, God's looking for more. Just tell him, God is looking for more. And the great thing about this is he will grant it. He will give it freely because he's wanting you to have that connection with him. It can change your life. It could change your very life. Father, we thank you for today. God, my heart has been challenged. Father, I pray as we leave here tonight, God, that we can agree, Father, that we have so much, dear Lord, so much we need to work on. God, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. Father, I have such a long way to go. But God, I'm committed to taking the first step tonight into knowing you more than I know you right this moment. God, I'm committed to, Father, to building that relationship with you like you want, like I was created to have, God. For each and every one of us, dear Lord God, we was created to honor, we was created to worship, we was created to give you glory. God, I pray for each one of us, Father, we get to know what that means, what it looks like, what it feels like, that we might experience you daily. That's my prayer. That's my plea. Have your way in all of our lives, for it's in Jesus' name. A few minutes, say amen. 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 Let's get our kids up here. Oh. What's the matter? What? Won't do no good. I keep you won't do nothing. That's good. There you go. That's good. That's good. Oh, this is a lot. What are we gonna get? Here we go. Bless the Lord.